My name is Jason Morehouse. I'm the founder, CEO of HiBoop, which is a new company. Previously, I'd had another company, but yeah, now we're doing this.
Can you tell me about your own mental health journey?
Yeah, it's been a long one. I kind of grew up in a little bit of a predisposed environment to some of these things, but just figured out a way to get through life. Shape shift a little bit and figure out. Like I didn't graduate. Like I didn't graduate. I only knew later on that I was dyslexic, so I didn't graduate high school, and just found a way to kind of survive in the world relatively successfully. But on the back end of it, the continued uh, anxiety associated with it, the continued it just got to a point, probably, let me say, what are we, 2025, 2023, just extreme somatic anxiety, which is your body saying, like, it's too much, like, nah. So I sought help, and they had diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder, which I kind of already knew, and complex PTSD, ADHD. I don't remember the other badges they gave me, but so it's in my 40s, and to kind of get that. I feel like there's one more in there, but doesn't matter. I got some clarity on what was driving both my will to survive as well as the non wonderful side effects of just going through life without any understanding of what's going on. Um, so yeah, that evolved once I exited my last company, evolved into this new company, which is why it takes so goddamn long to just even give people a starting point on whatever their journey is. So that's
Yeah,
kind
what inspired you to create the company?
of that alone, because like, the U.S. and Canada are similar in that way. It takes a long time, right? And then part of my ADHD brain was like, okay, so we know that um, okay, if you have ADHD, you're predisposed to this. If you have deep trauma, you're predisposed to this. So the way I thought about it is like it's a full constellation. These things are all connected. So if you go to a walking clinic and you're like, whatever, my partner thinks I'm depressed, well, you're gonna get, for the most part, unless you have an amazing support system, a single assessment, which is the DSM and some of those other modules. So it was like, this doesn't make any sense in this day and age that um, we can't connect the dots soon enough. I think the AMA, the American Medical Health Association, released a study saying it takes 11 years for the first onset of a symptom to even reach a formal diagnosis, much less the comorbidities or the co-disorders or whatever. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. So we've taken in all of the existing science, built an algorithm on top of it to give a starting point for um, humans. So like 11 years based on whatever disorder is too much. Yeah, some don't make it to 11 years. But
Mine was 15. I live with bipolar disorder too, and uh, it took me that long to do the right tests and all that, but it still wasn't easy to find the
right.
right diagnosis. But once I did, it was more like a aha moment. So, with your app, how is it for people to get that aha moment? Like, I know what I have now.
We don't diagnose. We just do the preliminary assessment. So if you look at the DSM or whatever, it's 300, 400 modules. What makes us unique is that combine all of those. So yes, it's psychometrics. It's the same thing you're going to fill out in the doctor's office for them to try to guide it. But what we do differently is that we pull all those in together, and then we use machine learning to start to almost like disqualify things. We're not going to look at this. We're going to look at this. We're not going to look at mood disorders so much. We're going to look at personality disorders or whatever it might be. And then at the outcome, which is again a point in time, it gives the individual and the care provider a place to start. Like BP2 can be often misdiagnosed as BPD, right? So it's just to use what they have, which frankly we know is imperfect, but to at least give care providers a starting chance in the individuals that they care for.
Yeah, can you walk me through the process?
Yeah, so we start with a general intake questionnaire, which is also used in the medical community across the world. It's the GAD-7. It was like, all right, what are we going with here? Like, is it extreme anxiety? Is it depression? Is it ADHD? But like, so we start there, and it's pretty easy to use, and people don't even have to do it all in the same day because it is a continuum process. So if we arrive at a preliminary assessment of here's the things to look at for the doctor, the care provider, whatever it might be, then we start down that path and trying to connect to it. So insomnia is connected to this. And so we don't, unlike what you would do in a clipboard, our users don't know where they are. They're not like you're filling out the DSM for anxiety. They don't actually know. I mean, they could probably sniff it out with the questions. So we keep doing that and keep connecting it. And if we can get to, if we take like bipolar, BP1, BP2, we know these are associated with other things, almost like the canary in the coal mine, which is this is worth digging into. So we go further into the assessments and we eliminate the ones that probably aren't associated with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it like creating a startup?
It's fun. I mean, purpose-based startups. Like
Yes.
we've got a really good team, and my last company, it's like 300 employees now and stuff like that. And that was fun. I mean, it gets kind of like corporate based, but this is a really easy thing to get. Everybody knows somebody in their family or their friends or themselves that aren't sure what's going on. They can't get the right assessment, much less diagnosis. They don't know where to go. They're on Google at 3 a.m. wondering why, what's going on. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing from my perspective and our team, which is, yeah, we can't do everything to help everyone, but we can make it easier. If only to say, stop searching. I met a woman who was diagnosed with borderline, and she ran a chat board and like a Facebook group, and only like it was 10 years later was she actually diagnosed with bipolar. It's crazy in this world. We treat the physical health, relatively well. But when it comes to mental health, it's just it's a bit of a void. You're just it's reactive. You can't just put a Band-Aid on the depression,
Right.
because there's something driving it, right? So when we think about it, there's something there, and we're not going to we'll survive, but we're not going to get well until we figure out what it is. So that's the purpose. It's the journey.
And I know for me, when I talk to people with lived experience, that goes much more a long way for me than data or anything like that. With you coming from lived experience, how important is that to the app?
is important, and it's important to all of our team because they all have, be it personal experiences or adjacent, to build something. Yes, it's a tech company, and we hope to offer it to like all the. There's so many organizations, whether you go from, let's say, treatment centers or practitioners, or I mean, go all the way into the military or schools that just don't even know where to start. So if it's an ADHD assessment, I mean, here in Canada, it takes about a year unless you're going to pony up some cash. But at least it's a starting point, right? Um, so inherently within the company, it is very important that everybody has some connection or some purpose to push forward, and that's what we have right now.
What is it like working with people that have a similar mission?
It's good. Like it's a social experiment. Like they're all kind of like anything, right? So they're wonderful, talented people, decades of experience, and then us kind of trying to navigate all of those things. There's a lot of ADHD, a lot of all that stuff, but it's rewarding because it gets me up in the morning. I'm not an early riser, so it gets me up around 9 to go and keep pushing this forward.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
Yeah, a very good question. Probably not enough, but I after learning everything about like all of these disorders, like I do the you know treatments and counselors and some medication that's helped immensely. Um, I think at this point in my life, I try not to like get overwhelmed with. I try not to have a fully stacked calendar because it drives me nuts. Like I'm not a big. I suffer with structure, which is kind of an ADHD thing. Some people with ADHD are fully structured, and some people are just like fireflies. You know, I'm a firefly. Um, so yeah, I just try to like give room for creativity and space in my day, so I'm not a robot just you know getting through the day to the end of the day. So if I have that space, that mental space to actually creatively think, it's not always going to be business or like whatever it might be. Then I sleep well, which sometimes I don't.
I know for me, my goal is to be a leader in the mental health media video space. And I know there's a lot of people with lived experience want to be leaders, but are, afraid by the stigma or something. What would you say to anyone that want to follow your footsteps?
Yeah, I mean it's there. I mean it's slightly better, but really it's still a stigma. So as an employer, even at my last company, like I was very open, because I had to like literally go away for whatever 6 7 weeks, and I was like, I'm taking this time in the summer to go figure out what is going on, so I can better operate as a human to my family, but also them. And when I did that, there was a lot of support, and then there was a lot of message saying, "My God, I'm going through this or that," and yeah, I think it's important, like as a leader, just to be, I'm a good oversharer, but just head on, because if they see somebody that is addressing it, sure, awareness, but it's so much bigger. And when leaders or whatever are just like, here's the all the stuff, and I'm not doing well today or this week or whatever, it changes the dynamic in the conversation with the people who are also going through it. versus just masking and trying to get through the day. It's important.
Where do you want to see your mission, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a global thing. So, I mean, the same science that's used in Canada and the US is used in Ireland and South Africa, New Zealand, like whatever it might be. So, so we're starting like more local. We've got 7 pilots that are actively using it. They're getting their early preliminary assessments. And so the next stage is to move that into like a wider lens and just try to do something meaningful. We're not a non-for-profit. We're a B Corp, which is a corporation with defined purpose, and then scale it out as best we can, and try to take that 11 years to 11 weeks. That's pretty much our current vision. Yeah.
How can people reach out and learn more?
So our website is hiboop.com, BOOP.com. And Boop is, I always get the question, so I'm gonna preempt it. What is the name? So what we didn't want to do is have like a clinical, brand. We wanted to be, so Boop is what I do to my kids and my cats. And it's somewhat universal, but it's a term of endearment, which means like, how are you? How you doing? Whether you say it or actually hit their nose around. So that was the initial premise on it, which is how are you? And that goes on from, so when you do your preliminary assessment, let's say you're diagnosed with singular PTSD or something, right? And let's say there's insomnia or nightmares. Well, on week 2, week 3, month 4, month 6, we track the progress, and that goes back to the practitioner. So maybe it's one nightmare a week after getting the diagnosis and then going into it. So it's also just this test on the results or the efficacy of the treatments or whatever it might be. Maybe it's misdiagnosed, who knows? And then reporting that back. So somebody's going to get a message on their phone saying, HiBoop, and then they're going to go in and answer the same questions. They're really easy. It's like quick to figure out where they're at.
What are some of the things you've learned from your kids?
Like good things?
Yeah.
I mean, they're a sweet bunch, but they, I mean, they're all teens right now, so I'm not sure how much I want to learn, but best I can, just patience.
Hmm.
We were all 14 once. It's a different world, but
Yeah.
Empathy and patience. They're kind of best friends because you have to like, okay, I'm not perfect at all, but yeah, I mean, it's probably more, but patience. And the thing is, like, so my son was diagnosed with ADHD, and we would always not clash, but like when I got my diagnosis, I was like, you have ADHD. I'm Dr. J, by the way, I'm not a doctor. And I was like, you're going for an assessment because this mirrors everything. And he was diagnosed. He was perfect specimen for ADHD. Like just ran through it. Got all the awards. But that, with me having it and everything else, and him having it, we didn't know. Like, but so that's part of it, right? So if often I'm sticking with ADHD because it's kind of my thing, but often parents have, there's going to be 1 or 2 kids. Maybe it's lower, not so impactful. But I wish that I would have known 20 years ago. He's not 20. He's 18. I wish I would have known, because I could better control through the therapies and everything my emotional dysregulation and like all those kind of things. So I learned that, and like not too late, but at least my own thing was able to identify that this sweet kid, it's not just a learning disability; it's just a different view on life. Like, for better or worse. So they teach me a lot of patience.